Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into something absolutely wild, the physical evolution of money. We're going to chart a fascinating 5,000-year journey, watching how money literally transformed from heavy, breathing assets you had to feed and keep alive, all the way down to weightless, formless data.
I mean, really think about it. When was the last time you actually held your wealth in your own two hands? If you open your banking app right now, you are looking at the sheer absurdity of modern wealth. It's just a formless, digital magic trick of pixels on a screen. But, it wasn't always this way. To understand how our money evaporated into thin air, we need to look at what money actually used to be made of.
So let's start at stage one, when money was tangible. To really get a grip on this, we've got to travel way back to the Neolithic period, to a time when money had real physical weight, a distinct smell, and sometimes even a heartbeat.
Before money, we relied on the barter system. But barter was incredibly rigid, all because of this massive economic headache called the double coincidence of wants. Imagine you have a cow, but you need wheat. You have to find someone who not only has wheat, but also specifically wants your cow. It was just totally inefficient. So to survive and trade smoothly, humanity needed physical commodity money, things universally accepted as valuable, like cattle, grain, salt, and eventually shells.
Enter the cowrie shell. These durable little things functioned as one of the very first global currencies. Originating in the warm waters of the Indian Ocean, they were traded across continents for over 3 millennia. They were solid, smooth, and easily divisible by just stringing them into necklaces. But here's the catch. Because of the massive volumes required, European trading companies eventually had to charter entire ships just to transport these heavy shells around the world. The physical burden was just immense.
So, tracking this chronological descent of physical weight, we kick things off with literal heavy livestock in 6000 BC, shift over to those bulky shells by 1300 BC, and then right around 600 BC we hit a major technological fix, designed specifically to solve the sheer physical burden of carrying your wealth. Which brings us to stage 2, the heavy metal age. Enter Lydia, Rome, and China. In this era, the physical form of money transforms into standardized pieces of heavy metal. We're getting smaller, for sure, but the weight is still very much a reality. The crucial shift here is that rulers actually began stamping metal to guarantee its value. Over in Lydia, which is modern-day Turkey, King Aliyats created the Lydian lion using electrum, a naturally occurring gold-silver alloy. This was a total revolution. It united a unit of account, a medium of exchange, and a store of value into one solid physical object that you could just drop in a pouch. And that sovereign stamp, that guaranteed its authenticity. But metal had a fatal flaw, perfectly illustrated by the nightmare of the Chinese cash coin. Because each copper or iron coin was worth so little, you literally had to string 1,000 of them together just to equal about 1.3 ounces of silver. That string, it weighed up to 10 pounds. Carrying strings of cast iron just to buy everyday things across vast empires was backbreaking. Money was simply too heavy. And that leads us right to stage 3, the paper money revolution. To solve this crushing physical weight, 7th century China during the Tang Dynasty innovates again. They invent paper money. For the first time ever, the physical mass of wealth begins to rapidly evaporate into a lightweight material. When the Venetian explorer Marco Polo witnessed this during Kublai Khan's reign, he was absolutely mind-blown. He wrote about how the emperor essentially caused the bark of trees to pass for money universally over his kingdoms. He couldn't believe you could transact massive sales with mere pieces of paper just as well as if they were coins of pure gold. It rendered massive wealth totally weightless for long journeys. Moving on to stage 4, the shift to fiat and plastic. Over the next few centuries, especially as central banks pop up in the 17th and 18th centuries, money takes another existential leap. It detaches from intrinsic value entirely and becomes an exercise in pure social trust. The physical form of wealth became just paper notes, checks, and telegraph transfers. Then, in the 1950s, the Diners Club introduces the modern credit card. Now your money was represented by a tiny, rectangular piece of plastic. Value was no longer about the physical metal you held in your hand, it was held up purely by institutional trust and the invisible infrastructure of commercial banking. Money was getting progressively less real. And finally, we arrive at stage 5. Money becomes formless data. This is the ultimate evaporation, the decoupled era. This is where things get truly mind-bending. as money loses its physical body entirely.
If we look back at our 5,000-year journey, we've gone from wrestling heavy livestock and bartering to carrying stamped metal, to folding paper, to swiping plastic cards, and now we're in the era of internet transactions. Money has transitioned into an ecosystem where it's programmable, interoperable, and smart. We are staring right into the digital void. The final nail in the coffin for physical money happens exactly here. On October 31, 2008, a mysterious figure, or maybe a group, named Satoshi Nakamoto publishes this white paper. It completely shattered the paradigm. It proposed moving money from a physical object you could hold or a balance held in a central bank into a purely digital asset existing only on a decentralized ledger called a blockchain. Suddenly, the heavy steel vaults of central banks are replaced by this completely weightless, encrypted sequence of code. Instead of coins minted in some royal facility, a blockchain is just a growing ledger of records linked by cryptography. Each block contains verified transactions and a unique digital fingerprint called a hash. If anyone tries to alter a record, the math literally breaks. It ensures trust and immutability without any physical anchor whatsoever. Instead of a central mint churning out coins, algorithms and distributed nodes are reaching consensus across the globe. Some networks use proof of work, expending computational power to solve puzzles, while others use proof of stake, locking up digital collateral. There's no physical commodity backing it, there's no government decree backing it. Your money is now nothing but decentralized, formless data living on a global network of computers.
So I want to leave you with this existential thought. Over 5,000 years, the object that built the modern world has completely evaporated into thin air. We went from wrestling with cattle to hauling bags of shells, to breaking our backs carrying 10 pounds of iron coins, to printing paper, to swiping plastic, to nothing. Just math and trust on a screen. Money has lost its physical body, yet it somehow controls our physical world more than ever. Thank you for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope this changes the way you look at the screen on your banking app forever.